right, everybody. Welcome back to another remote edition of the Talking with Tarashuk podcast. My guest today is a man I used to work with, a very smart man, very intelligent man, and a very good man. The man's name is Allan Schoenberg. Allan is currently a chief communications officer with an expertise in finance and the economy. We're going to discuss exactly what that means, because I have so many questions, the landscape of corporate America, how he got there, some quality advice for anyone out there like me who wants to get there one day, and how his passion for running and philosophy managed to weave their way in and out of his busy schedule. So Allan, my friend, thank you so much for being on the show, and welcome.
Will, thank you. And thanks for calling me your friend. I take that as a great honor of a badge of honor for me. So appreciate it.
Yeah. So we met through work. You worked more closely with Leanne.
Yep.
And I believe Leanne was my supervisor. Then it was Anna. And then it was you. Am I right there? So
that's correct. Correct.
You're pretty high up there.
Few layers.
So you're pretty high up there. So this is my first interview with actually someone from, I guess, an executive tier. Were you where were you in terms of the executive tier? Was it like more mid-level executive, high-level executive? I honestly don't know.
Oh goodness, I don't know either. I don't know either. The point was just getting the work done. So and while there's layers in the org chart, I was always accessible and would talk to you and everybody else. So I don't know. To me, it was just doing my job is what I did. So I don't know how you want to categorize that.
Yeah, it was pretty much if Allan doesn't yell at you, you're doing a good job. So.
Hey, I don't yell.
No, okay. If Allan doesn't need a stern discussion or like a hey pal, that kind of discussion, which I never had.
Pause.
So, thank God.
The pause.
The pause. So, Allan, thank you for being here. But what brings you here today? Give me your life story, introduce yourself to everybody. And who is Mr. Schoenberg?
Yeah, well, look, I have to say I was a little jealous. I saw Leanne on your show and I was like, well, why didn't Will ask me to be on the show? I can't believe it. So great to be here. And then I've seen some of your episodes, big baseball fan. I grew up a big baseball fan in the city of Detroit. So seeing all of your shows about baseball got me energized as well. Hopefully we can talk a little bit, a little bit of baseball today too. Love some Diamond talk. I'm kind of a nomad though, grew up in Detroit, moved to Chicago. I lived in London. Now I'm in New York. I have 4 kids. I love what I do from a professional standpoint. Longtime runner. I had a bit of a pause in my running career, if you want to call it a career, but back at it again and running distances that I never thought I'd dream of running. We can talk about ultra races and ultra marathons. And yeah, so it's that's a 50 plus years of my life summed up in 30 seconds for you. How's that?
It's perfect. But you know what? You want to talk baseball? Let's start baseball. Baseball
Sure.
is very easy to talk about for me because I can talk about it forever. You strike me as a Met fan.
No.
This is my guess. No. Who's your team? Who's your team?
The Detroit Tigers.
The Tigers?
Yes.
Well,
I was born in 1968, of course, the year of the Tigers. Al Kaline, Mickey Lolich, Denny McLain winning the World Series against the Cardinals. Graduated high school in 86. So just before I graduated, they won the World Series in 84. Alan Trammell, Lou Whitaker, Jack Morris, Kirk Gibson. So yeah, I was, a Tiger fan from the day I was born. Of course, my father was a Tiger fan too. So that had an influence on me a little bit, but I've always been a Tiger fan.
And the Tigers have struck me as a team that's always had the pieces, but they've always been missing one or two. Like I'm going back to the mid 2000s, like 05, 06, 07. They were the bane of the Yankees' existence. I'm a Yankee fan.
Yeah, I know you're a Yankee fan. I'm sorry.
It was every ALDS. It was just, they're facing Verlander again. They're facing Verlander again. Mike Mussina just can't beat Verlander.
Yeah.
So, and then Miguel Cabrera on a tear. Who is their closer? The guy with the big mustache.
Oh, I know you're talking about.
I forget his name.
Can't remember.
The big dude. My dad's going to kill me. He's going to yell at the screen for me. But, they had the Jim Leland, great manager.
Yeah.
Had a big history with the Pirates. But it's like, why couldn't the Tigers they got to the World Series and they lost to the Astros, I believe, in 06.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep, they did. Correct. Yeah.
So what was the missing piece for the Tigers?
I every sport I played, I've always played a defensive role. So my feeling on every championship is defense wins championship. So whether it's ice hockey and the Red Wings, basketball and the Pistons, Tigers and pitching. So to me, if a team always has a weak spot, it's always pitching in baseball, in my view. So I would say that team was, probably one pitcher away from winning it.
I think that makes sense.
Yeah,
I think that's historically that's been the Yankees' problem too, at least in the past 15 years or so.
Yeah. And I've always had the feeling the Tigers always, 20 years have this good run every 20 years. They've kind of missed their window now, but they're struggling this year. So they're struggling. 5th place out of the 3 divisions now in the American. I'm still getting used to like having 3 divisions in the American League. And it drives me nuts. I'm a purist.
There used to be more. I thought is this East, West, Central?
There used to be 2, right? There was East and West.
Oh, was this the A? Oh, he's talking way back, talking like the
yeah.
AL. I shouldn't say way back, but back. I'll say back. Right? I gotta humble you a little bit. So back.
Yeah.
It was just the AL and the NL where it was just they went straight to the pennant and then the World Series.
You had the AL East and the AL West, right? So and then those 2 winners would meet in the playoffs, and then the winner that would go to the World Series. And now you've got wild cards and 3 divisions, and it's just, to me, it's too much.
Did that switch early 90s with the expansion? Was that before that? Because then you had division series and wild card.
I think that's about right. It was in the 90s. I think that's about right. Yeah. I'm also being an American League baseball fan. A bit of heresy here. I am not a fan of the designated hitter. So really? I love that pitchers have to hit. So for me, the DH rule, I just don't like it.
For me, it's just like, okay, you got to pick one, right? You can't have one league with, one league without.
Yeah.
That just seems silly.
Yeah.
I like the DH because, pitchers are very fragile, right? Pitchers like a quarterback. If a good pitcher goes down, forget it. Your whole season can be over. Money is just wasted.
Yeah.
So like the DH, I think the DH just existed because 1, MLB's dying. We need home runs. So DH, yay. And 2, money. It comes down to everything.
Totally agree.
It's a business decision.
Yeah,
I like the DH, but I like the Ohtani rule. Where he can pitch and DH, because there's definitely some pitchers out there who can still hit, who just can't hit.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I think the protection of the pitchers is obviously they're an expensive commodity these days, but I just love the concept of the strategy. And, you've got a pitcher without a DH, do you take them out? Do you pinch it for them? Do you let them hit and let them continue pitching? If they're pitching well, like, to me, it just adds a level of complexity if you're a manager to figure out, like, what do you need to do? And that, to me, it's all goes to like game theory. Now we can get a little into economics here. But there's a strategy around it. And what's the cost, the opportunity cost for like taking out the pitcher and putting in a pinch hitter? And then you got to have a new pitcher. Like, to me, that is, that's what I really enjoy about the sport. Whereas, DH rule, it's great. It's fine. It, gives some players longevity, protects pitchers. I get it. More runs. It's fun. It's okay. But I'm okay with it, but they're not going to listen to me anyway.
I kind of think baseball needs to lean into the fact that it's a game for nerds, right? It's like, it's inherently a very nerdy game. The game is all about statistics.
Yeah.
Right. And it's all about strategy. It's like if Dungeons and Dragons was a sport, right? It's just complete. And I think myself as a purist like that. So I'm curious to see, because I've not gonna lie, I've gone a little back and forth on this one with the extra innings runner on second base.
Yeah.
Because the purist in me hates it because it makes the game too easy. Then again, I've heard some managers speak on it. It's like, no. This is just a new strategy.
Yeah.
Right? 'Cause it's like,
I like it.
Who's on second base, right? Are they fast?
Yeah.
Who's at the plate? Do you bunt?
Walk them?
If Aaron Judge is at the plate, do you want him bunting? No. But it does add that element into the game. But I was like, listen, second base, put him on first base. I think first base would make more sense. But second base is like, okay, well, one hit ends the game. It's a little silly.
It all depends. If you're the home team, I guess that's okay. I like the runner on second base rule. It speeds up the game. It does add some complexity. Again, the game theory of like, what do you do? To your point, like, do you bunt? Do you walk the hitter? Do you try for a double play? Like, do you go for it? Like, there's a lot more decision making that needs to be made in a quick scenario. That I think it's pretty fascinating. I do. And to your point in sports, I mean, fantasy sports is, the birth of fantasy sports is rotisserie baseball.
Yep.
I mean, that's where it all started decades ago.
Yep. I believe me and
you know,
Trevor
I used to
covered that
play.
in
I
detail.
love that. Yeah, I love those old fantasy leagues. It was, you know, you were just poring over the newspaper the next day and trying to figure out where your players were. Now, you know, you get on a sports league and just see it in real time, which is okay. But it can cause a lot of anxiety. So
That's for sure. I mean, you think fantasy football is stressful. Think 162 games of like 6 months.
Oh, it's too much. From a fantasy sports perspective, it's too much.
All right, Alan, last baseball question. By the time this is released, it's going to be about the All-Star break, which I can't believe it's already the All-Star break.
Okay.
Who you got in the World Series and who wins?
Oh, I think, you know, right now driver's seat is the Yankees.
I
really do. They're playing really well. If I had to take a National League team, though, I'd be the Dodgers. I love the Dodgers, so that's my National League team, my go-to team. So that's who I'm hoping for. And a Dodgers-Yankee series is always phenomenal.
It is. I'm glad I wasn't alive in the 70s, although I kind of take that back because I would have loved to see it. Like my dad loves telling me about Reggie Jackson and like the this like that summer of 77. I think it was 77 with the Son of Sam. And then the Reggie Jackson is going crazy with Billy Martin and this the whole squad.
Yeah.
Wild. I would have loved to be alive at that time, but
yeah, I was, and it was a great series. I remember, you know, watching all those games with my dad, the Dodgers, Yankees, and it was phenomenal. Just a great series.
I want the Subway Series. I am begging for the Subway Series. I want to see the Yankees come in and just whoop that ass on the Mets. That is just what I'm begging for.
Yeah, it would be really interesting for sure. For sure.
We'll see, Alan. But we're here to talk about economics, some philosophy, and then a little bit of corporate America. So where'd your passion for economics come from? Because it's not really something that, like, when you were a kid going, yes, numbers.
Well, you know, it does have what's the nickname for economics? It's the dismal science, right?
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of boring. Depends on how you look at it. Like I didn't grow up saying I want to be an economist or I wanted to do economics. I went to undergrads and you know, honestly, economics found me. I didn't find economics. So I had some early classes in micro and macroeconomics. I had a philosophy class, and I really loved that whole combination and thinking about, you know, how do you solve problems? And at the heart of economics is really about human behavior and understanding human behavior. What incentives do you apply to create behavior change? Just thinking about all of that and the way, you know, people buy things, people don't buy things, how the labor market operates. My undergrad degree has a focus in labor economics. So it was really kind of peeling the onion on numbers and data and how things are working and why, and then trying to, you know, predict models on what was happening. I just found really fascinating. It was almost like a game, you know, if you think of it that way. And it's like a puzzle or a strategy game. So to me, at the heart of it, I just fell in love with it. I love economics. I love reading about it. I love following it. You know, most of the people like on Twitter or publications I read, you know, following the economics writers. I just find that just continues to just really fascinate me.
It's interesting. Now, I was speaking with Drew on this on our podcast, how like traders and people in economics really kind of converse and discuss everything on Twitter. Like
you're talking like everybody knows who Jill is.
Oh, Joe Malandrino, host of NASDAQ Trade Talks. They will. Everyone knows who Jill is, right? She's a huge star on Twitter. My point is like people who speak economics on Twitter, which I kind of think about. I was like, why? Out of all the places to converse and discuss things, 260 characters on Twitter? Or is it 280 now? It's just like
280.
That's where you want to talk all your money? So like, how much of your time is this on Twitter going, moron? That's a good point. Yeah, I would debate you, but I can't. Like, why Twitter?
You know, Twitter is a great platform. It's more the me platform in social media, right? So there's, you know, a lot of people talk their book, right? So they talk their book, whatever it is, whatever your profession is, your job, your interest, you're talking your book. So I think, you know, economists constantly doing research, constantly putting out sort of views and theories. It's, you know, it's a great platform for them to, you know, bring up a debate and, you know, sort of dust off their playbook per se. So I think econ Twitter has its own little world. That's, you know, it's fascinating. Again, and to me, the challenge with Twitter, as you just said, it's the character limitation. So you have to really be succinct, get your point across, almost be a headline writer to some extent, and know how to be very brief and talk that way. And so it's interesting.
I think out of all my platforms, Twitter is my least favorite.
It's hard. It's really difficult.
It's definitely the hardest. I'll give you that. It's definitely the hardest. You know, Facebook has its. I scroll through Facebook for memes and things to laugh at and like news headlines. Go, oh, that's ridiculous. Instagram memes to send my friends and texting people. I despise TikTok. YouTube's my favorite. I'm on YouTube all the time. I'm creating content for YouTube all the time, so I got to be on YouTube all the time. But it kind of all falls into communications. Right. Yeah. So you were formerly a senior vice president and global head of communications and are currently a chief communications officer. So what exactly does all of that mean?
I think that the thing that everybody relies on today in the world is communications. And, you just named several platforms. I mean, we didn't have those 10, 15, 20 years ago, right? So the world, in my world professionally, has changed dramatically. The amount of information, the amount of communication, the amount of research data, people who are now influencers, we talked about econ Twitter. Well, there's all kinds of different levels of various professions and industries that have their own experts now in all these platforms. So one component of, what the profession does that I'm in, public relations and communications, is really trying to tie all that together. Is there a theme? Is there a trend? Who should we talk to? Who can help influence things? Who do we need to talk with? Who should understand what we're doing? So there's that, again, the kind of real-time aggregation, game theory of like, where are things headed and what should we do component to it. That's the external side of it. And then there's always an internal side of all this too, right? Every organization has their own people that they need to talk with to educate, build awareness. What are we doing? How are we doing it? Who are the people that matter? And so it's for me, there's this, I don't like the word influence because it has a negative connotation to it, but there's an awareness and an influence component to the role of communications, the words you choose, the visuals you choose, when you use them, how often you use them. I mean, these are real decisions that the people in my profession have to make in order to make an impact. And so there's data that comes with it. There's just being having job experience doing it, and I would say the last leg of it, all of that is listening and really understanding what all of your stakeholders want: your clients, your customers, your employees, your partners, the community. So it's an ongoing challenge. And again, I'll harken it back to my days of studying economics and human behavior. The job I have as a communications person and a public relations person is exactly the same thing as an economist. I'm trying to understand, human behavior. What are people doing? What are they building? What are they buying? What are they looking for in a service economy? And like, how do you deliver what they need? Not what they want necessarily, because it can be some but what do they need? And just understanding all that. It's just a challenge. You don't have a 100% track record all the time. So you learn from your mistakes, you learn from your, things you tried that didn't work, and you move on.
I think you said listening. I think listening in public discourse, even sometimes in the workplace, can just be ignored. Listening is kind of a lost, it's not like a dying art form. It's a skill people need to re-up on. And that's a big reason why I podcast. I think podcasting makes me an excellent listener.
What did you say?
Yeah, exactly. I think podcast. I'll say it again for people who weren't listening. I think podcasting makes me a better listener. I think over the past 20 years, let's say over the past 20 years, in your experience, in your opinion, do you think people have gotten better at communicating with all these new platforms, worse, or is it kind of this similar? It just evolves a little bit.
Can I say it depends?
That's always a valid answer for everything. It depends.
Yeah. We are drowning in information.
Yeah.
Right. I can remember starting in this profession early on in the 90s, in the early 90s, and you had plenty of time. You could read your publications and you'd put things together and you'd send it out and you'd mail it or fact. Like there was not this sense of immediacy, urgency that there is today. And I think part of what makes people really successful today, no matter what their job is or what they're doing, is just slowing down and asking yourself, is this an emergency right now? Like, if I don't do it today and I wait a day or I wait an hour, is it going to make a difference? I think that is a real soft skill today that a lot of people find challenging, including myself, because there is this, again, we live in this 24/7 immediacy, urgency, nonstop digital world, it seems. So having that ability, and this has probably come with my age and experience of taking the long view, stepping back, and helping sort of think about what the response should be, whether it's my own personal response or an organization's response or a team response internally, is, I think, a real skill today. And that skill is charged because of all of the information we have at our fingertips. So it's so to your question, because I was listening to you, Will.
Love it. Thank you. I'm glad someone does.
Yeah, I think it does depend, right? It depends on what it is that's happening. I think having more information certainly lets people, like a researcher, for instance, or an analyst, really dive into all that information and come up with a conclusion. I think that on the flip side, though, all that information, does make people probably react more than they should react. And you see examples of more the reaction in real time versus the slower, methodical, step back, think about it reaction. So I think there's a misconception that social media is just driving all of this, like, hardcore reaction, emotional responses all the time. I think you don't see the slow, methodical answers and responses. So it's a bit different. It's hard to answer. I do think it's both.
So how can someone become a better listener? Because I like what you said about, like, take your time and, like, don't react to things immediately. Sure, like, let it marinate. Can I do this now? If I try and do it tomorrow, will the situation change where it makes it easier instead of reacting on it right now? So I think that's great advice. And I think I need to take you up on that one. But how can people just become better listeners and communicators?
There's going to be a few answers to that question. So no one solution. There's no silver bullet. One, I think just learning the practice of slowing down and making it a habit is critical. I meditate every day. I have a regular habit of just slowing myself down, checking in with myself. So meditations, I study Stoicism, I study Buddhism. All of that over years has just accumulated into me just being able to regulate myself. And I think self-regulation is a very, very important skill that people can benefit from. That's number one. Number two, I think is something also that I practice is stakeholder management. Before I respond or think of a response, I am thinking a lot about who is the audience and what are they in a panic and an urgency, and do I need to calm things down? Are they just want the best answer when I get it to them? We get into this immediate reply syndrome. So you have to think a little bit about who the audience is and what that response time requires. And it could be, I think a lot of the best answers are just acknowledging you have something from somebody. Got it. I'm going to work on it. Or thanks for sending all this. Give me until tomorrow and I'll come back to you. Like, setting expectations is my third point. I don't think people set expectations with others as well as they should. And that, to me, is also something that I've learned over time from many mentors, that if you can manage others' expectations of what they expect from you, then the results will always be better. If my client knows I'm going to have something to them by this Thursday, they understand it's this Thursday. If, my kids understand that, I'm at work and I, can't play sports with them until I get off my job until later tonight, and then we can go, like, it's managing their expectations. So I would say all three of those things are really key and critical. And again, it goes back to what we were just talking about. Like, we live in a world that is just moving super fast.
No, for sure. So how do you manage, I guess, general expectations, like even with your friends and family, right? Because you were a global head of communications. So that means the whole globe, right? So you're working with people in Europe, you're working with people in Asia, hell, you're working with people in California, right? So like APAC hours could be 3 a.m. over here in the States. Yeah. And if you got to communicate with those people, that gets in the way of the rest of your life. So you as a executive, you as a professional, also you as a husband and a father, how do you balance all of that? And like, how do you put out fires from people who speak a different language than you? Yeah.
Well, I think there's a lot that has to go into, we could kind of parse that in a number of ways. Well, right. If you're talking international cultures, I think it's really taking the time to understand a culture. Yeah, I'm fortunate that I lived in London for 4 years. And so I worked with people from really literally all over Europe. And I got to understand very deeply different cultures. And then living in a different culture, I was my favorite saying to my kids is, look, you're a foreigner in a foreign land. So just, mind you, I know everybody speaks English in England, but you're still a foreigner. Right. So I think that experience was, and being exposed to so many different cultures by traveling everywhere was a huge benefit to me. And I'm incredibly grateful and fortunate for that opportunity that it gave me, because it taught me a lot about other people and dealing with other people and the differences in people. So that you learn patience and you learn understanding very quickly. I think asking a lot of questions also is important. You can't set expectations if you don't know what they are, and you don't know what they are unless you ask a lot of questions. So asking questions also is important. And then to me, it's, again, maybe it's come with age and just being a little bit wiser, but slowing down and for my kids, for example, just being a good example to them, not lecturing them, but showing them, I think goes a long way. And I think that for executives and people in business goes a long way as well. Just, walk your talk is important. And if they see that, then they understand versus you just telling them or sending them a text. But if they see that behavior, then it makes a difference.
So like a hypothetical situation, right? There's you're in crisis mode for a company, working for company X, and this decision over like the next few weeks could cost the company like millions of dollars, right? And like you're responsible for this problem. Like, how do you keep a cool head? Because I don't even know if you've been in that kind of situation. I really hope you haven't.
All the time.
Like, all the time. Yeah, it's
crises happen all the time.
Forget it. So how do you because you use the word stoicism, and we talked about this before we record. We're gonna get into stoicism. You are so stoic. Stoic is like the perfect adjective to describe you, because you're always cool. Like, I remember, like, it was an IPO day, super busy. I walk in, everyone's kind of freaking out. You're at your desk. Yeah. Hey, Will, morning. There's donuts over there if you want them. I'm like, what? So like, how do you keep the cool head? And is it practice? I'm assuming it's meditation. I'm going to guess it's meditation.
Meditation has a lot to do with it, for sure. I think that's helped me slow down a lot. I think keeping calm under pressure is, it's something I studied in my graduate school program. I wrote my thesis on crisis management and what does it take to be a leader in a crisis, and emotions and emotional responses came out as, a very, very clear thing in my research. And I did qualitative and quantitative research for that paper, the thesis. So I learned a lot from that. I studied crisis management, and there was always a fallback onto the idea of you learn from it. So what are you going to learn from it and apply in the future. So do I get worried when things happen? And the other thing is, define a crisis. Everybody defines it differently, right?
Mm-hmm.
I've heard multiple times, we're in a crisis. Well, it's not really a crisis. It's a problem, right? It's an issue. We need to address it. So crisis is a very personal definition I've learned over time as well. But I think in the big thing that my takeaway for me in my career professionally is, there's people are looking for answers, right? And they're looking for help. And, me frantically running around like it's crazy and the world's on fire does not help exude confidence, calm, or allowing people to make decisions, including myself. So for me, it's always, you've heard it before, right? Before you give a speech, what should you do? Take a calm, deep breath, right? Inhale, exhale, take that breath, right? It's a pause. And it makes a difference. Pauses, stopping and thinking, can have a reset effect that for me it just works. It just works for me.
Yeah.
So
what's the biggest team you've managed? How many people roughly?
Oh goodness, I think the team at NASDAQ, it was about 30 people.
30 people. Okay.
Yeah.
So in your opinion, what makes a successful manager in a corporate position?
Oh boy, that's a great question. Again, no one answer, right? It all depends. I think there's a level of trust that is needed.
Trust is huge.
Yeah. I trust giving work to people. I trust letting people stretch themselves to do things they may not be comfortable with. That is super important. I think again, setting an example, behavior is very important. Are you on time for meetings? This is a great example. Or are you always late? So if you're always late, does that mean that everybody can be late for all their meetings? Right. So little examples like that are important. But I think for me, the biggest challenge, of course, is just knowing your people, understanding them, and really listening to them. As we've talked about, we're talking about listening a lot, listening to who they are, just what makes them tick, not just professional skill wise, but as a person.
Right.
And trying to understand, I'll go back to I'll put on my economics hat, right? This is my economics hat. Here's my economics hat, right?
Are we going fishing?
No, this is my running hat. We haven't talked about running yet.
We'll get there. Don't worry.
Yeah. Understanding people from an economics behavior standpoint, right? Like what are the behaviors that drive people? It's the same thing for a manager. Some people want to take on as much work as they can. They want to push themselves. Other people want to be a super, super highly skilled in one thing. Right. And if you're a manager, you're not listening, you're not trusting them. They don't trust you. You're not giving off the behaviors that you understand, that can go off the rails really, really quickly. So, would you be like, we'll have this job for you to do and you have no skill set in it. You don't want to do it. And I'm like, you're going to do it's just, there's a disconnect, you're going to want to leave. I think there's always a saying, like people don't leave good jobs. They leave bad managers. Right.
That's great. Luckily, I've always had great managers. Like in my professional job, I've been like 3 for 3. Oh, it does. Totally.
It makes 100%. a big difference. Yes. Yeah. So it is a really hard, effort to make. Managing people is difficult. It's not an easy endeavor. I don't find it easy myself. Doesn't mean I don't enjoy it. I really like working with people. I like understanding people. I like seeing, people excel. Yeah. I like seeing people really excited about what they're doing. That to me as a manager, those are great, great attributes to have. And but it's hard. And, to your point, managing 30 people makes it difficult. Now, that goes back to the, Anna reported to me and Leanne, and then it still was, even if I wasn't talking with you specifically about your job, that didn't mean I wasn't having conversations about you. And, is
I
what's
know.
Will doing?
Trust me,
Is he,
I'm aware.
is he a good fit? They all told you I was asking about you.
Sometimes.
What's that guy doing? Who is that guy?
Like sometimes they'd be like, just so you know, this is for Allan. It's like, don't screw it up.
Who is that guy?
Yeah.
But that's also a role of a manager, like, asking like, how are they managing their people? Are their people okay?
Allan, I'll never forget this one time. I think we were in Studio B and I spelled your name wrong on a lower third. And I freaked out, right? So that was a crisis for me, right? And to your credit, as a manager, I know we talked about stern talks earlier.
Yeah.
You kind of gave me one, not a little bit. It was in your own stoic way, because I was just like, Leanne kind of gave me the rundown. And I was just like, I sent you an email. It's like, I'm sorry. It won't happen again. Like I took responsibility for it. And you just went, no problem. It happens. Won't happen again. I got it. And that was it. Buried. Done. That's a sign of a good manager.
Didn't happen again, did it?
It didn't happen again. I triple checked. I made sure.
Yeah, so now, great point. Like, what would I have gained from yelling at you or having my head pop off? Or like, it happens, And I also realize I have a name that gets misspelled all the time.
Yeah, me too. Tarashuk. Yeah, it's awful.
Oh, I thought you were going to say Will.
Yeah, Will. Yeah, it's Will. I am. Will I am. So this next question is a little personal to me, right? Because like I'm the founder of Ambiguous Podcast Solutions. I am also a contractor, working 40 hours a week. Those do bleed into each other a little bit, but I'm getting to a position where I'm going to need help with everything for APS, right? I've been thinking for a long time about getting interns to kind of help with editing, social media, stuff like this. But what's holding me back is I, as a manager, want to make sure I give them the time and my attention that they deserve to be successful, especially if they're interns.
Yeah.
Which is very hard for me to balance because I have so much responsibility and I put so much responsibility on myself.
Yeah.
How can I better balance that and still be successful, balancing my own personal work with managing a team? Because managing a team, I'm going to be good at it. I just know it. But I need to find the time because I got to give the respect to my team, not just I need this done, don't bother me.
Yeah.
So how can I do that?
I think you need to have one thinking in your mindset in this aspect, and it helps me is that helping others helps you. Right. So if you think of it that way, and we'll break that down a little bit, but working with your interns, your staff, your team, whatever it is that you have, I don't know, your army of people that work at your podcast, or your production company, but taking time to talk to them and walk them through things makes you think about them, makes you think about what has to be done. You learn from them because they'll ask questions. They may have an idea that makes you think a little bit differently. So if you think that every question or every engagement with someone you're helping is an opportunity for you to get better, it makes that making time for others a lot easier to think about. Because otherwise, to your point, like you could just say like, I don't have time. I just don't have time. I'm too busy. I can't do that. But if you think about, well, let's see, if I set up a 30-minute meeting every week and we talk about these things and we talk about ideas and I listen to them and they give me some ideas, maybe I want to research that. And maybe I didn't think about doing it this way. And then you add another skill set to your repertoire. So I think there's always this, and not to be selfish about it, but we all want to learn. We all want to get better at what we do.
Yeah.
We all want to succeed. We want to help our clients succeed. I think if you just take that and shift your mindset a little bit of like, what do I need to do? I think that would help.
Do you find workers work better on a tight leash where they need to be told what to do, or a little bit looser like me, where it's kind of just like, hey, here's the expectation. I trust you to go do it. I know the answer is it depends. Like, it does. In your experience, where do you find there's more of people who like to be told what to do, or people who like a little more freedom, like structured freedom? I'll call it structured freedom.
Yeah. Again, my own personal view is I like to give people freedom to do things on their own. Now, that doesn't mean I'm not involved or not giving direction or not helping, not behind the scenes, but there is a belief in my mind that, people want to learn and succeed and feel like they are doing it on their own. I'm the same way. right? So I love when someone gives me a project and the question or the directive is figure it out. That's awesome. I love that. I love having something given to me with a clean white sheet of paper and I can build it. I love that.
It's half my job. It's half my job.
Yeah. So I take that in the same, but again, that's my belief and how I work. Mm-hmm. And I know everybody's different. So again, as managing people and working with people, you have to understand what everybody needs. And some people need a little bit more direction, and, some people that might be more junior and others don't. But I like to give people the opportunity to like figure it out on your own. And if you need help, I always tell people I work with, just raise your hand. See, just raise your hand. I'm not a intimidating person to come sit with. If you want to have a meeting with me, I love meeting with people. Let's go get a coffee. Let's have a Zoom call. Like come, let's go get lunch. Like we can talk about it however way you want to.
Yeah, you are very approachable.
Yeah. So then that goes back to like manage others' expectations, right? What I talked about, the importance of managing other, like, I expect people to manage my expectations. If I give you a project and I don't give you a clear directive, you should ask me questions, and that's my fault. And I take responsibility for that, but then you should be responsible enough to say, you didn't give me a deadline on this. Do you have a deadline? And who should I work with? Like, you didn't tell me. Oh, I'll be the first to admit, like, that's my fault. I'm sorry. I need it this day, and you should talk with these two people. Yeah. But I definitely like the idea of like, you should go figure it out on your own. I think that's the way people learn. And I think people feel really good about themselves when they can figure stuff out on their own.
Yeah, I do too. Like, that's how I like to work. Like, if I was to hire someone, I'd really expect like, listen, I'll give you all the content in the world, but I just need you to develop a social strategy, schedule posts, and go build a following. How you do that is completely up to you, right? And like,
legally,
but I feel weird like saying like that's my. I feel like that's a weird expectation to put on someone. I feel like I almost feel like that's the sign of a bad manager.
No. I know where you're coming from. It doesn't mean you just walk away, right?
Yeah. Like, of course, I'd still be there for questions and the guidance.
Ask them 2 days later, how's it going? Do you need some help? Do you have some questions? Like, give them prompts. Give people prompts. That's okay. I mean, I love when someone, if I'm given a project and someone checks in, hey, how's everything going? Do you need some help? When my boss does that, I love it. A, it shows they care. B, it shows they want to help. And they're all in. And then I know the importance of it. So again, mindset is really important in all of this as both a manager and, someone being managed.
All right. That's great advice, Allan. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Sure.
All right.
Sure.
Climbing the corporate ladder. You've made your, how fast did you climb the corporate ladder? How fast, how early into your career was, you know what? I'm here. I am an executive.
Why are you so stuck on being an executive?
I founded a company, Allan. What do you mean?
You are an executive then.
I mean, anyone can just call themselves an executive, right? But like, it's right now it's a team of 5 people essentially, right? Okay. Like, we all have our responsibilities. I got a partner in Nashville who manages his own stuff and does his own thing. I got a partner in North Dakota who's doing his own stuff. I got a partner in Montclair, New Jersey doing his own stuff, and then there's me.
Here's what I will tell you from my experience of what's worked and what's not worked. I can tell you every time that I had a job or a promotion where I went in thinking I'm the boss, I'm the leader, this is what we were going to do things. It failed miserably. When I went into a position just saying, hey, I just want to do things really well. Let's all succeed. Let's be a team and let's move forward is when I succeeded the most. So there is this, again, these are my experiences. I think, rising up the corporate ladder or however you want to put it is, if you make others win and others succeed, you will succeed. If you are only focused on yourself succeeding, you are going to fail.
Okay.
I believe again, that. I'll go by my own experience. People want to be, again, another Allanism. People want to do business and work with good people. They just do. And people want to be around good people. And if you can be that good person and help others succeed and drive success and build success, you'll be successful. Don't worry about the end game. I could hearken, I talk about this with my teenage kids, and they roll their eyes. I get it, because I did that with my dad.
Yep, I did too. Don't worry.
Right? Like, they all want to be successful and they want to do it right now. And it's like, look, it's a long-term game. Don't worry about getting the thing you want right now, because you won't get it. You're just too laser focused. If you can build success around you, then the success will come to you. And it's, I'm again, super grateful, very, very fortunate that I've worked with amazing people. And I've had some tremendous mentors in my career who have really helped me and given me time. And, I've learned from that. And, that's something that I hope I can give back.
Well, I appreciate that, Allan. All right, so we're done with corporate America, right? We're done with business. We're good. All set. We can talk about philosophy.
Sure.
So you told me about Stoicism.
Mm-hmm.
I forget the guy's name you mentioned, and then Buddhism.
Yeah.
So
there's a lot of guys in Stoicism. You can go back to like Marcus Aurelius and his original, diaries, the meditations. But there's a lot to be taken away from that, and those, the theory and philosophy around Stoicism. I think, it has a bad name of being stoic. You're so stoic. But Stoicism really is the study of yourself and making yourself a better person and questioning who you are and what you're doing. That in essence is Stoicism.
Yeah, so I Googled it. Wikipedia told me the Stoics provided a unified account of the world constructed from ideals of logic, monistic physics, and naturalistic ethics. Of these, they emphasized ethics as the main focus of human knowledge, and their logical theories were more interest than later philosophers. Stoicism teaches the development of self-control and fortitude and means of overcoming destructive emotions, which honestly, in economics and business, that's huge. Yeah. It's humongous. Philosophy holds that becoming a clear and unbiased thinker allows one to understand universal reason. So is that just kind of naturally, instinctively who you are as a person, or is that a learned behavior for yourself?
To me, it's learned. It's not learned. I guess I would say learned behavior. Yeah. I don't like that saying learned behavior, because then it sounds like, you weren't really that person. I think there is a innate want from humans to just be better, to be better people at the heart of things, at least myself. So, I studied philosophy in undergrad and really started to read more about Buddhism maybe like 15 years ago, and then Stoicism, about 5-7 years ago. Ryan Holiday is my go-to guy. He's an author. He's written several books about Stoicism. He runs the Daily Stoic website, the Daily Stoic email. If you really want to understand Stoicism and the benefits of it, he's your guy. He's, numerous videos, his daily emails, his books he's written. He to me has been a huge teacher to me about Stoicism and applying it to my life. But Wikipedia is a very formal definition. Again, I would just go back to my definition. Stoicism is just all about making yourself a better person. I
like your definition better.
Yeah.
I do like your definition better. Although, I feel like a lot of walks of life are about making yourself better. You can say, working on going to the gym is like an art of making yourself better.
Yeah.
Right. No, but fitting your definition, no, I think it totally makes sense. It's more internal, right? It's more about
very internal.
It's more about the minds. And I think a lot of people like myself, I have generalized anxiety. I've had it since a kid. Alan, I don't know if you're going to believe this, but I didn't talk in kindergarten. Like throughout the whole school year, I didn't say a word out loud, like in the classroom.
Your podcast would not have been that good in kindergarten.
It would have been it would have been a lot of whispering in people's ears. But I bring that up because, how do you beat that kind of anxiety? Well, you kind of got to trick yourself, right? And I think meditation was something that could have helped me, but meditation's hard. It's really difficult to do, to sit in a quiet room and just breathe and empty your minds. For me, what kind of clicked for me was I was listening to a guided meditation, probably on I forget, it might have been YouTube, it might have been the Calm app. I love the Calm app.
Yeah.
But they're like, focus on your breath, not just specifically your breath, but it's the little pause in between the inhale and then again on the end of the exhale. Because before you take a breath or release a breath, there's always a little pause. If you focus
Yep.
on that pause, your mind will just erase.
Yeah.
So what's your tick? What makes you really focus and hone in on meditation? Because it does work. It's very effective.
Oh, it's a great practice, but I think to your point, Will, like it's the hardest thing I do. Hardest thing I do. I run, ultra marathons. I, raise 4 kids. Sitting still for 5-10 minutes every day, and just thinking and having thoughts wander. It is extremely difficult, and that is the point of meditation. Is it's not supposed to be easy. I don't think people realize that. I know people that try it and they quit, and it's too hard. I can't do it. Well, that's the point. Yeah. It is meant to be difficult. Sitting alone with your thoughts and your feelings and your emotions with no distractions can be an unpleasant experience. The more you do it, the more comfortable you get, though, with yourself. And I think that is a key strength and takeaway of doing meditation every day. It allows you to investigate who you are.
Do you follow Sam Harris?
Yeah. Sam's great.
He's the one who really opened my eyes to meditation, made me want to try it. I'm a big fan of Sam Harris. I think he's very, very, very smart, especially when it comes to meditation. When do you find the best time to meditate is? For me, I tried doing it before bed. It would sometimes, if I did it right and I got in that zone, I'd be out like a light, slept like a baby. Yeah,
always in the morning for me. Always in the morning. It's a good way to start my day and just clear my mind and understand that, where I am. But I think the huge benefit of doing it as a regular practice and starting out, and you do for me, for instance, a morning meditation is a phenomenal way to clear my head and start my day. I find, after years of doing it and years of practice, I can meditate anywhere, on the train, eating lunch, going for a run. I wouldn't recommend doing it while you're driving your car. But
you need your eyes open for that one.
Yeah, you can still meditate with your eyes open, but you can even walking meditation is a great habit to get into. And no phone, no earbud, just walk and listen to sounds, and try to understand what you're hearing and how it makes you feel. I think meditation again is introspection of how you are feeling and reacting to things in order to better adjust and get over the anxieties that you have, understand your strengths, know where you have weaknesses and what you need to work on as a person, and investigate that. And that's meditation is not about sitting still for 5 minutes with a clear mind and having nothing in your head. That is not meditation. Right. If you think that's what it is, you're gonna fail miserably. It's not meditation.
How long do you meditate for? Do you have a set time, or it's kind of just you feel it in your mind, you feel it in your body, and you go, I'm good?
Yeah, I do about 5 to 7 minutes.
5 to 7 minutes?
Yeah, that's easy. It's not much. It's really not, but it is the hardest, most difficult 5 minutes of my day. It is really, there's times where, I start out fine, and then, my chime goes off and it's like, I totally forgot what I was doing. And I don't remember, meditating. And days like that, I meditate again. Because to me, it's just a incredibly important practice that I have.
Right. All right. So you got these Buddhist methods. You got these ideologies, these ethics and stoicism on how you kind of better yourself. Can those ethics or philosophies sometimes clash with your professional life? And if so, how do you deal with that? Either from someone under you or above you. Because if they're under you, you can just kind of go, well, too bad, I'm the boss. If they're above you, it's kind of how do you balance that? Because especially someone who thinks logically, sometimes the worst enemy of someone who thinks logically is someone who thinks illogically, right? It's how do you balance that with I have my way of thinking, my morals, my values through these teaching I've taught myself. It's been very beneficial, and I got this schmuck over here who just doesn't get it.
Yeah,
you got to work on that schmuck.
I would just say I'm a student of life, so I love to learn about a lot of different things, a lot of different philosophies. I studied theology as a teenager through college. I just am a sponge for all of that information. So I just realized that people are different. So I don't prescribe, like, let's just take Buddhism, for instance. Like, I am not a Buddhist. I would not say I'm a Buddhist. I've studied Buddhism for a long time, and I've studied the practices of Buddhism, but I am not a Buddhist. I would never go around saying I'm Buddhist, because that would be false. But, I study the precepts, I study what it's about, what it means, and, I apply what I feel like I can apply to my life, and act in a way that matters.
Okay. Perfect. All right, Allan, last topic is running. And I saved
now we're excited. Now we're getting to it.
I saved running for last because I think running for you is what podcasting is for me.
Yeah.
Right? Podcasting to me is therapy, it's self-expression, it's fun, it's part of my business, it's entertaining, it's what I love to do. That's what I think running is for you. Like, running for you is just your escape. It's the one Allan thing Allan gets to do by himself and no one else can bother him. How close am I?
Yeah, you're pretty close. You're pretty close. There is a huge benefit to it of unplugging and being alone, and and running miles and miles and miles on your own. So I do enjoy that benefit to it. That's certainly one benefit.
Explain the runner's high.
Oh gosh, the runner's high it's hard to explain. I don't get it very often, but when I do, it is just a great feeling of, body and mind just moving in such a way that feels really good. It just feels natural and comfortable. And it's just this feeling of and euphoria of everything is working, and I love that feeling. And I get it mostly. I get it in races, and I think that's probably because there's a lot of adrenaline while you're running a race. But I can get it while I'm training, and it's for me, I can't. It's not something you turn on or off, but runner's high, it has to do a lot with flow and the concept of flow, and you can get into that concept of flow at work and doing a project you're working on that you're really excited and passionate about, and you're in it, and all of a sudden an hour goes by and you've completed it, and it's just, if you feel great about it. So that to me is that's a good feeling with runner's high.
Distance or sprints? Which do you prefer?
Oh, distance. I mean, come on. I'm in my 50s. I can't do sprints.
I know. But I'm assuming you ran track in high school, like all throughout college, all that?
I ran cross country in high school.
Cross country. Okay, so
I didn't run track, so it's funny because I still talk to my high school cross country coach. I see him every now and then when I go back to Michigan. Yeah.
That's awesome.
And
that's awesome.
He was a great mentor to me personally, and taught me a lot about running. But I was doing high school cross country is 5Ks, right? So 3 miles. And I think the most I ever ran in high school was like I probably did 10 miles in a day for a training run. So now I do that. I do ultra marathon. So right. So I have a 50-mile race coming up at the end of June. I think this is coming out after. So I have a 100-mile race at the end of August in Oregon. I try to do, like 3 ultra marathons a year. So 1 or 2 50-mile races, 1 100-mile race.
You ever do the like Boston or New York marathon?
I've only run one road marathon in my life, and it was Detroit.
Okay. Hometown.
So
that counts.
I just, part of it goes back to this. I love running in the trails. I love running in nature. All of the races I do are mostly trail races. I do 1 or 2 half marathons a year on the road, some 10Ks on the road, but I say this now probably because of who I am, but there's no appeal to me to like running in a race with 50,000 people. 30, 40, that to me just does not sound fun. Right. Like I like to go run, and I compete in races, but I like to run to be with me and to be out there exploring not just the area, but myself. Yeah. And I find that very claustrophobic to do that in a crowded race like that.
Yeah, I get that. No, it's like I said, it's very personal. It's almost religious in a sense.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I would agree.
So I got a friend, was my brother's friend, but I've known him forever.
Yeah.
He is a psychopath. He is a personal trainer, and he's doing an Ironman in Alaska in August.
Okay.
So for those who don't know what an Ironman is, you start out swimming. I forget how long. you bike for even longer, and then you run a marathon.
Yeah,
All in a row.
yeah.
Why do people do this, Allan?
Well, I could never do a triathlon, Will, because I can't swim. So I've never
No,
swam
Allan, you
in
gotta
my
learn how to
life.
swim.
I know. I know.
Allan, you have kids. Come on, man. If they're in trouble, someone's got to save them.
If I were to do a triathlon, I'd have to ask if I could get those like rubber floaties for my arms.
Get the swimmies. Get a noodle, a tube.
Yeah. And, and I'm not ashamed of it. I just can't swim. I had a experience as a little kid, and just never got back in the pool. So,
fair enough.
Why do people do it? That's a great question. Like, why do I subject myself? Running 100 miles, I'm awake for 33 hours. Triathlons, you end it with with the marathon after our bike and swim. Part of it is I would say I can speak for myself, and I think for a lot of people, it's just a challenge. It is definitely a challenge. It's unique. Very few people do it. Particularly 100-mile races. I mean, you're talking like well under 1% of people in the world do it every year. So there was a uniqueness to it and a challenge. But I love running. So I just it's something that I really, really enjoy. I think I'm good at it. And pushing myself is definitely part of it.
How are your knees?
Everybody always asks that.
How do you stay healthy?
Knees are. I will personally say I'm not a doctor, but I believe the whole knee theory is a myth. Your reason your knees are bad is if you have a weak core, because running is all done through your core, your glutes, okay. your hips, your stomach, your core is what drives you. If you think about, running, you are lifting the leg and putting it down. If your core is weak, your knees have to make up for the weakness in your core. Hence why people get wonky knees when they run. They probably have a very weak core. If your core is strong, you can run. I don't have, I don't, I'm knocking wood. Well, you're going to jinx me. I don't have any problems, but I work on my core, right? So that to me is part of the difference in the strength of running. So running isn't just legs. You do have to work on, your whole body as a runner, and particularly when you're doing the races that I do and the long distances I do, you can't just have runner's legs. You've got to have like a runner body and a runner and a mentality. So that's the other thing that makes it. The challenge is it's just not a physical challenge, like pushing yourself, to do 50 miles and 100K and then 100 miles. Like that is a mental struggle.
Yeah. It's like baseball. It's a lot of mental.
The real battle for me is the mental battle. It's not the physical battle. It's a physical, it is a physical push, but getting your mind, and it's 2:30 in the morning and you're at mile 70 and you've got 30 to go and you have no idea where you are and you're sleep deprived, you want to quit. So how do you get over that? That to me is the challenge that I love. It's getting through that. And I know I can do it now. I mean, I've done it for 7 years. So the first time I did it, I didn't think I could do it. But now I know I can, and I know what that push is like. And that to me also, I can apply that to so many other things in my life.
Right.
If I can get through a 100-mile race, I can get through this project, or I can get through this challenge, or I can get through this problem.
I can get through a Talking with Tarashuk podcast. Easy.
No, this is hard.
Oh, you did great. I think right there is a perfect place to leave it. But don't think I forgot, Allan. If you listen to the show, the last question always goes to the guest. So if there's anything you've ever wanted to ask me, I am an open book. Now is the time. You can always plead the fifth if you got nothing.
Well, I was going to ask you in terms of, I'm gonna keep it on the podcast side of things.
Most people do.
So I want to know what is your end goal, your end dream, when it comes to what you're doing, because you're natural at it, you enjoy it. So where do you want this dream of yours to go?
Well, I mean, that's a great question. I ask myself that all the time. And luckily, I have the base answer, And then the rest kind of changes depending on my mindset. So the base answer is Ambiguous Podcast Solutions. You know, me and the 4 guys founded Ambiguous Podcast Solutions. Our goal for that is to go public. And then as soon as it goes public, I'm done. I'm selling. I'm gone. I want nothing to do with a publicly traded company. It sounds like a nightmare. However, I also own Willie T Productions, which is my sole proprietor, where I own everything. What that's going to be, well, is and going to be, is just my podcasting, my stuff. I want to manage a small team, probably about 5-6 people, have my own studio, a personal studio in my basement, and my actual studio I can go to, fly people in, have guests in person. Like, Alan, if I was rich and famous living in Tennessee, I'd buy you a plane ticket, get you a hotel, and you do it in the studio, right? Literally like what Rogan does. So that's the kind of thing I want to do. I want to just podcast forever, whether from in my studio, which I own and operate, or from home where I can be a stay-at-home dad, or anything. My main goal is to make APS a success. We all go our separate ways. I do my own thing while working with those relationships we still build, and just podcast forever. Because luckily, I can be 95 years old, God willing, and still be on this microphone annoying people. It's going to happen. It can happen. It's going to be easy. I can't wait.
You're right. You can. I think that is with the capabilities of technology today, and you could certainly have your podcast for forever.
Yeah.
Why not?
And I want to keep relationships I make along the way. So like my current employer, I never want to leave, right? I've been working there almost 3 years now, and I never want to leave. I want to adapt. I want to blend, if that's possible. If not, I'll cross that bridge when I get there and see where I am. But I like the fact that I have options, and that to me is security.
Yeah.
So that eventually is my end goal, because podcasting is my life. Podcasting is what I do. I am a podcaster.
Well, I would say you're learning a very important skill that will last you the rest of your life. Conversing with people, asking really good questions, and listening.
Communication and listening. Alan, I think we got a theme. But all right, ladies and gentlemen, that has been Allan Schoenberg, a good friend of mine. Alan, this has been a great time. I'm very happy you decided to do this. Anything you want to share, people can find you. If you want to plug anything, my friend, the floor is yours.
I think, the easiest place to find me is on Twitter. It's just Allan Schoenberg. And that's probably the best place to find me and reach out. So.
Amazing. And ladies and gentlemen, you know where to find all my stuff. My name is Will Tarashuk. This has been the Talking with Tarashuk podcast. You can find all our shenanigans every most important place, ambiguouspodcastsolutions.com, to find all of our other podcasts, all the other podcasts I do, all the other podcasts our partners do. And if you want to be a partner, make sure you reach out to me at will@apspodcast.com. If you want to be a guest on this podcast, you are all welcome. He's going to make me go, ooh, that's pretty interesting. Like when Alan approached me, he's like, I want to be in your podcast. I went, interesting. And I was like, well, he's on. It's gonna happen. It's inevitable. He's gonna be on. It's just how it works. So Will at apspodcast.com to be a guest on this show. We'll do it just like this, and it'll be fun. But until then, I'll be back next week. I don't know. We'll figure it out. I'll see who's there. I'll see who's around. But until then, y'all take care.